Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about a very hot topic that's going around right now, and that's related to skill-based matchmaking and certain YouTubers or streamers trying to weasel their way into lower bracketed lobbies. And a lot of this started as a result of that skill-based matchmaking Warzone.com site that I talked about while it was in alpha, and then it kind of was already come out, and they've added a ton of different features where they can rank lobbies based off individual skill. I don't know exactly the metric that they're using. I think it's primarily KD, but overall they have, you know, bronze 1 all the way up to bronze 4, silver 1 to 4, gold 1 to 4, and diamond 1 to 4. But I think with this new information, people are using it to really attack certain people that are probably not cheating. So we'll be talking about different topics related to that, as well as how people are doing it and how you can try and detect it from the outside looking in. Enjoy the video, learn something new. Please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, looking to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Let's go ahead and get into it. So one of the first misconceptions that goes around is that we're dealing with skill-based matchmaking. Obviously, there's a bunch of little shady patents out there or whatever, but the true real goal of Activision, because that's who's really in charge of everything, they did the same thing with Destiny, and then Destiny broke off, and then they removed their skill-based matchmaking formula algorithm. But the overall goal is to get people playing as much as possible, as long as possible, as often as possible, because if you can do that, then people are more likely to spend money on the thing they're investing all this time in terms of battle pass, microtransactions in the store, all that type of stuff. So it's really based on engagement based matchmaking. So they're going to try and you know, study your behavior and figure out what's going to keep you on the game longer. And there's a lot of different things that go into that. It's not just a matter of, hey, this guy's skilled, put him with good players. And that's kind of how it works. I think that's a common misconception. The skill is a factor, but it's not going to be the only factor, right? Obviously, there's tons of other factors that's going to keep somebody playing longer, whether it's them being paired up with a good player, them being paired up with the lower skilled player, so they're more challenged because they like to carry. There's a lot of different variables depending on the individual's mindset, and they have their algorithms doing all of it behind the scenes, and they've kind of removed that organic element that just lets you load up, give you a good connection, and that's pretty much it. You got into a lobby, regardless, sometimes good, sometimes bad, you never know. It's all going to be random. Nope, they removed that completely. There's an algorithm trying to make sure you stay in the game longer. So that's the main thing. Also, when it comes to Warzone, since you need to get a 150 player lobby, the actual like strength of skill-based matchmaking, I'm gonna still say skill-based matchmaking just because that's what most people say, is significantly weaker than in multiplayer. Because when you come to multiplayer, when you're playing Cold War or when you're playing Modern Warfare, which have had very strong skill-based matchmaking in comparison to previous years of Call of Duty, where it felt a little bit more organic, and that's primarily because you're only really trying to fill in 12 spots, 6 versus 6. That's one of the reasons Ground War always felt like it had a little bit less skill-based matchmaking, or it wasn't as strong, because you're feeling 24 versus 24 or 32 versus 32. A lot more players. As you expand the search criteria of the number of players you need to loosen up on the search criteria in terms of skill, region, ping, all these different things, because you're trying to fill the lobby as fast as possible. So there's a lot of different factors, but what this does mean is when you're playing the Battle Royale, you can expect to get a wide range of different players. So let's go ahead and take a look at the bronze lobby. You can see the upper people. There are a couple different 2 KDs in there, a bunch of 1.5s, 1.4. Keep it in mind that the average KD in this game is between 0.8 and 1.1. So there are a lot of above average players in a quote unquote bronze lobby. We go to the bottom, there's a bunch of bad players too. You can see right here where the average cuts off, and now these are what we'd consider below average players. And now let's go ahead and compare that to a diamond lobby. So they're the same diamond lobby, and you can see there's like a 10 KD. That guy might be cheating, who knows? We got this other guy, 6 KD, a bunch of 4s, 3s, 2s, all the way down here. So it's definitely above average entire lobby. And then we get to the bottom, and there's a bunch of bad people too. People that are well below average. One thing to point out is I think people get hard fixed on these individual numbers. It's like, well, how the heck does a 0.31 end up in a diamond lobby? Well, you're seeing it as a 0.31, and the algorithm just might be seeing it as, okay, we need this amount of below average players, we need this amount of average players, and we need this amount of above average players. Regardless of how you look at this number, 3.1 is below average. So If the game decides in a diamond lobby that they want to have 22 below average players, they don't care if you're 0.79 or if you are 0.19. Doesn't matter. It's going to grab you and throw you into that lobby because it needs to fill in this diamond lobby that needs to fill in these 20 spots. If you happen to get into a bronze lobby, the game might go, you know what? We need 85 below average players to fill this lobby. Let's go ahead and mix up the pool a little bit. We need 10 above average players, and then the rest will be whatever's left over. That'll be quote unquote average, which is at 0.8 to 1.1. And this is kind of what happens. And this explains why if you have a 0.8 KD, you can get into a lobby with your top streamer, YouTuber. It wouldn't be every match though. That's definitely not the case. But one thing to point out with this is good players can be in bad lobbies and bad players can be in good lobbies organically. Just because, as you can see, everyone in the lobby isn't a 1.1 or above. There's a lot of people that are definitely below that. So I think that's one of the misconceptions. People don't understand how that works. It's just the ratios will differ in that lobby. If you're in a high skill bracket where you end up in a high, like, oh man, this lobby's kind of sweaty, odds are there's still about 30 or 40 players that are below average. Just because your queue time would be 10 to 20 minutes if you really wanted to stack the lobby with everyone in the lobby being a 1.1 or above, and it would just take a lot of time. So let's go ahead and talk about the factors that are going to contribute to this, because I know there's a lot of people going around saying people are using routers, and we're going to talk about that too. So there's several different factors. We have skill, the region you live in, depending on population, it can be a little bit stricter or looser because they want to try and fill those lobbies. Time of day, is it peak time? Is it morning or evening? Also party composition, do you have some high skill and low skill? There's a little bit of mix in there. They want to keep everyone happy. They don't want to just make one player happy. They want to try and keep everyone engaged as long as possible. How long you play the game, your buying habits. Are you buying stuff in the store? Do you have the battle pass? What loadouts are you using? Are your certain guns, the meta guns, leveled up? Are you using those particular meta weapons? How is your internet connection? Is your NAT type open, closed, or strict, or whatever the heck, moderate, or whatever the heck it is? What mode are you playing? If you're playing solos, you're significantly less likely to get put in a bronze lobby or a diamond if you're above average player, just because they can't get 150 sweats in one lobby. So the likelihood of it being a diamond lobby is incredibly low, as we'll see for some top end players that I've decided to take a look at. And then lastly is the queue time. They don't want people waiting too long. So there's only one lobby available and it happens to be a below average lobby and quote unquote bronze lobby. Instead of having you wait 5 minutes for a higher skill lobby, they could just throw you in there, and for a good player, they just got lucky. Opposite happens for bad players too. If you're below average player and there's not really a below average player to fill up right away, they might throw you in diamond, because as we saw, there's plenty of diamond people that will be well below average and they're not like tanking their stat. They're just not that good. And they happen to be thrown into a higher bracket. And I think there's other factors at play, which we'll talk to, especially when we get to the data. Pretty interesting. Now we'll move on to the ways that people are cheating. Obviously, I put out a video back in September talking about the bot hosted or low stat hosted lobby, where basically you go into duos, and I have a second account on a different platform. Then you join duos, and as soon as it loads you into the game, they back out, you stay in the lobby, and that's it. You should theoretically get a lower skill. I think there's actually stuff that they're doing about this actively to crack down on that portion of it. But with that, it's pretty easy to detect. By far, one of the easiest ways to detect, because you can just go to COD Tracker or any of these other, info sites related to matchmaking, and you're going to see the second account there. Even if they get lucky and it doesn't show up there, if they're doing it frequently, it's going to show up there. It's going to be very obvious that they're playing with another account that is not playing, and they have 0 stats, 0 kills, 0 damage, 0 time in match, because basically they left the match in the pregame lobby. The next one I'm less familiar with. I know it's being done. I don't know by who, but obviously the research has been done. Drifter put out a video kind of talking about he knows kind of how to do it, and other people have said, hey, I think so-and-so's doing it in the community. I haven't really found anything to support that certain people are doing it. I'm sure there's still people doing it, but I haven't found anything to support it, because unless you have data to back it, it's just you saying it for the sake of saying it, and that is not a good way to put yourself out there. I'm sure more information will come out of that. Something that has to do with a net Duma, changing your location, region, the area that it locks onto, I don't know. And combining that with the VPN, I really don't know, honestly. I wish I knew, because then I could talk a little bit more articulate about it. But as of right now, all we know is it's being done, but it's not openly available to everyone to know how to actually do this method. So how do you detect it then, right? You have to look at the data. It's not as much, what I'm seeing a lot right now when I'm going into people's streams, when I'm seeing on Twitter, when I see in videos and comments, is people saying, hey, they leave a screenshot to a specific match where a certain player that is well above average, or certain set of players are well above average, and they get a high kill game in a very below average lobby, a bronze lobby. And they show one screenshot, which is one match. This just doesn't work. At the end of the day, you can really never honestly confirm that a single match was using a specific method unless that bot account is physically there and it says, hey, you know, XYZ bots, you know, 00 KD. So you have to be a little bit more diligent about it, and you have to look at all the data. That means that you can't use a single match. So you can't cherry pick and say, hey, you know what? His 3 high kill matches, they're bronze, so it's fishy. Well, what about the other 25 matches in between? Those matter too. Ideally, your sample size needs to be about 25, 30. That's a good little sample size. At least give you an inkling. Hey, you know what? Maybe something's fishy going on. Let me dig deeper. If not, you know what? Looks good. No biggie. Or, you know, and then once you got to dig deeper, you need like 100+ matches showing a consistent pattern of abuse of the skill-based matchmaking algorithm. And then even then, unless it was an extreme outlier, like somebody's getting into a bronze lobby 9 out of 10 matches with a 5 KD, it's still not going to even be obvious, because their region could definitely play a role. Because I know there are different parts of the world where you load in, if you're above average player, you're going to primarily get put into bronze and silver lobbies, just because they don't have enough players to fill those lobbies with actually good players of similar or above average skill. So you got to end up with that situation too. You got to factor in a lot of things. Are they even host? I mean, there's a lot of variables, but you got to do your due diligence. And that's what I'm going to talk about in today's video a little bit. I actually went and I looked at several different accounts, and we're going to talk about what the data showed us, and why that, you know, bot hosting thing, I don't think it's working anymore. I haven't tried it, but based on the guy, you guys will see right now. So here's a spreadsheet. I'm actually going to share and link down in the description, because all this is readily available. If you guys want to double check my math, make sure everything adds up, more power to you. But what I did is I looked at overall placement, the average kills, deaths, and these are all like 4 or 5 KD players that I looked at, with the exception of one player I looked at as a 1 KD, and we're going to talk a little bit about that account in detail. Out of the 177 matches, only 6 matches were bronze. Out of the people's matches that I checked, only 6 were bronze, 34 were silver, 64 were gold, and 73 were diamond. 2/3 of the matches were diamond. Almost 2/3 of the matches were gold, and the remainder mostly silver, and then a hair of bronze thrown into the mix. I also looked at 20 pluses. How many 20 pluses were dropped? Out of 177 matches by top players in Warzone, only 10 20 bombs were dropped. I know that number seems incredibly low because you watch YouTube and all of them drop a 20 bomb every single match, but that's just not the case. Out of all these top players we're going to look at, that is a very low percentage of matches. It equates to be about 5.5% of their matches they can drop a 20 bomb. Everything else is below that. And out of the 6 matches that they had bronze, they only dropped a 20 bomb in 16% of those, 1 out of 6. About 10% of silver, 5% of gold, and about 5% of diamond. So it's significantly harder, and obviously in diamond, because you can see that these ratios pan out, but they're still good. They dropping it in diamond. And we actually had a couple examples with Rallied here. This dude's an absolute monster. I'm going to leave links to all these people. I don't think they're suspected cheaters at all from this. And you can look up their match history. I looked up a lot of matches for a lot of these people, and Rallied actually had 2 diamond 20 pluses. And he was doing random duos, which he's an absolute beast. But we go over here, Joe Woe. You can see the different stats here. I'm not going to go through all of them individually, but out of 32 matches that Joe Woe played, 17 were diamond, 12 were gold. So 29 out of 32 were gold or diamond. And the game gave him 2 bones. He got 1 bronze and 2 silver. So it's ridiculous that people were like, oh yeah, he's got to be using the router. So in Rally's case, he played a lot of solos and duos, which, like I talked about earlier, it's harder to fill those lobbies. So 9 times out of 10, if you're playing solos, you're going to end up with a silver or a gold lobby, which lines up here pretty well. And then you can see kind of how the distribution works out there. I also look at OP Marked. He has 2,200 wins on the leaderboard. He is currently number 2 in all Battle Royale. And he has a 6 KD. And when you look at his overall placements, out of 30 matches, 20 were diamond, 4 were gold, 6 were silver, no bronze. So bronze is a very rare occurrence. And then we go over here to Spiros, the man, the myth, the legend. And we have a similar circumstance. Spiros played 28 matches, 4 were diamond because he did play a lot of solos. You can see all these solos rack up. Like I said, you're not likely to get bronze or diamond within solos. It's going to be a rare occurrence. Most of it's almost going to be silver and gold, and that aligns with this data here, that majority of his matches are gold. Then the next is silver and diamond, and then he had 1 little fluke in there that was a bronze. And in that bronze match, he racked up a total of 6 kills. Nothing crazy. You guys could do that in pretty much any lobby. So initially you could die to the top end players that happen to be in the bronze lobby, or you can manage to kill most of the people that happen to be at the bottom of a diamond lobby. And that's kind of what the data is suggesting, that at least these matches, nothing crazy is going on. I've included the last 5 KD, which adds up these previous 5 matches above that. Then we come down a little bit lower. A lot of people had, suggesting, saying, hey, you know what? You need to check out Biffle. He just set a world record. You need to go ahead and expose him as a cheater, but the data doesn't show that he's cheating. Maybe a little bit above average, slightly, but I would say it's not conclusive. If I only stopped measuring up to here, it would have only had 2 out of like 30 matches. So right here, you can see the matches. He primarily plays quads, plays a little bit of solos and duos in there, but for the vast majority of his matches, it's almost always going to be quads. Over here, out of the 32 matches he played, 12 were diamond, 13 were gold, and then 7 were either silver or bronze, with 4 being bronze. You can see he didn't get into many silvers, and it did happen when he was playing solos that he got into a silver. So that's kind of the average there. Also with the bronze here, so it's kind of one of those things. It's not conclusive enough. You can look at the individual matches there. You can plug them in and you'll be good to go. Now we look at Hydro. This guy actually got a video made about him recently because they actually had proof that he was queuing up with the bot account and not being honest with his audience. But despite what that video says and whatever, based off these 32 matches that I looked at, you can see that 40% of the time he ends up in a diamond lobby, 10% it's gold, 9% it's silver, and 0% he's getting into a bronze lobby. So if people exploit it off stream for one match for content, I think they should still be honest with their audience. Obviously, just say, hey, you know what? The game is extra sweaty today. There's too many hackers. We're going to get to that too. And then you kind of go from there. That's one of the bigger problems with the game. Then we have this random account. I blocked out the name, and I was noticing, I just clicked on a 1 KD at random. From one of the matches, I clicked on a 1 KD, and I said, let me look at 32 of their matches and see what's going on here. And what is very funny is he was doing the bot account method. It's hilarious. I looked at the account, I was like, no way that this dude is doing this, and he's not even getting good lobbies. That's why I think Activision is kind of wised up, and they're actively countering that method. If you're not doing it with this, there's maybe some nuances to it to get it right, but people that are doing that, it is actually hurting your experience. Right here, you can see the guy queued up with 2 people in these modes, but that was always a bot with him. It says, I hate skill-based matchmaking 500 type. That's the guy's name, right? And every match he queued up, he pretty much got gold and diamond, even though he's a 1 KD player. So it was kind of pushing him into the upper bracket because the game was like, yeah, we know what you're trying to do. We're going to give you a terrible experience. Maybe you stop doing that, right? And he did terrible. He didn't have good matches as expected. If you're a 1 KD player only playing in diamond and gold lobbies, you're going to have a tough experience. And you can see right here, he ended up dropping the bot around this area. And then all of a sudden he stopped getting diamonds, like the game knew. And you can see he even got a bronze in there. A 1 KD, it made sense. And you can see how the math adds up here. I separated the top half when he was queuing up with the bot and when he just started to do random fill like duos and trios. You can see that it shifts dramatically from the right side to the left, vice versa on the camera. But you can see right here, you got 8% bronze, no diamonds, 45% diamond, 45% gold. So gold is still in the mix and still silver. I would expect that somebody who is an average player to mostly be in silver and gold. And then, you know, sometimes occasionally in diamond because they got to fill those spots. And then sometimes in bronze because they got to fill those spots. But for the most part, they should be in silver and gold. And all this data suggests that people aren't doing anything fishy except for the guy who has a 1 KD and he's going negative 0.8 KD over his matches because he was queuing up in above average lobbies. I think the algorithm's trying to get to him. So that brings me to the final point that I want to talk about. And people are worried about the wrong stuff. You shouldn't be worried about if your favorite content creators are cheating to get in easier lobbies, even though that is an issue, right? If you find some evidence, prove it, right? Like, don't go make these empty claims. Prove it. I want to see the evidence, right? Like, I almost went through this hoping that I would find clear, concrete evidence that somebody I would look at was abusing the system, but they weren't. Based off the data, maybe they did before and after this set of matches. I'll never know. But that's the point. I didn't find anything here that would make me go, hey, you know what? Let me look a little deeper into this, right? I'm sure there's people doing it. They'll continue doing it, but that's not the real problem. Activision has a huge problem that they aren't addressing. Hackers in almost every lobby, regardless of if it's bronze, silver, gold, or diamond, there are hackers in pretty much every lobby. That's not the way it should be. On top of that, every season, there are broken mechanics that stay in the game for a long period of time. They have the stim glitch, where it's unlimited stims. Gas mask glitch, where you can stay out in the gas for as long as you wanted. Unlimited juggernauts. They had the FAMAS shotgun underbarrel that was one shot like up to 15-20 meters, completely broken, doing way too much damage. They had the EBR blueprint that was one shot to the head. They fixed that pretty quickly. Now we have the whole Cold War integration where none of the weapons do what they're supposed to. None of the attachments do what they're supposed to. Or at least they do the opposite, and it doesn't make sense. That part is very frustrating. We have a MAC 10 blueprint that is part of the battle pass at tier 95 that is essentially pay to win because it has 30% more damage at every zone you hit compared to the base version, which is something we haven't had. And that is too big of an issue to be overlooked. It should have been addressed immediately because it's an issue. And then obviously we have DMR. It got nerfed, but they really didn't nerf it enough to actually change anything, to actually let the real meta find itself. So there's a lot of issues here. The conclusion is I would hope that more people would focus on that issue and try and attack that issue. Skill-based matchmaking is here to stay. Obviously, there's going to be people that are always working around it. But do your research if you're going to call someone out. Based off this, nothing looks fishy to me, sadly. I really wanted to, but it is what it is. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, learned something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.